All right. Another round of matchups. We've got the CTO Mamox 45 versus Zeusimon with the Going Merry Christmas. Give them the all clear. I'm expecting some traditional leads out of Zeusimon with the Skarmory, of course. He can, of course, change it up, bring in the higher whatever that little thing is. Oh, going straight for the Nami into the Diancie. Both of them trying to... Well, Mamox could easily just be trying to get his Mega Evolution off. But Zeusimon kind of going straight for the offense with the setup sweeper. Typically the setup sweeper. Imagine we'll see a Tail Glow. Yeah, Mamox just immediately making the swap there, but giving Zeusimon the free Tail Glow. Curious how he intends to break this. The big question is if he has Volt Switch or Thunderbolt, and possibly even Thunder. But essentially if he does, oh, he just gets murdered. Energy Ball with the grass typing just crushing him. See, depending on the Mew's investment, he could potentially speed tie, but Mamox traditionally likes to bring a bulkier Mew with bulk in the investment. Yeah, there's another Tail Glow just trying to set up as much as possible, but Mamox trying to counter set with the Calm Minds. Bit of an interesting situation there. I personally would be trying to push damage. Yeah, there he gets a second Calm Mind off, but at 33% health, he's not going to be able to survive another attack. Oh, and the shit talking begins. They're at each other's throats. Yeah, you really got to remember that the best thing to do against this Manaphy is to really push damage on it. Even on the first turn, he didn't even have to switch the Diancie. He could have gone for an attacking move off of it. But you just got to push some kind of damage on it there. He's finally getting an attack, finally outspeeding. But that Scald's just going to crush with all those special attack buffs. Going for the priority now. Could have also potentially gone into the Crobat and outspeed that way. The worst thing you can do against these setup Mon is just play passively and make your swap. Sometimes you gotta leave whatever Mon you have into it out there and just push the damage. Again, I gotta point out that the Diancie did outspeed it, so if he had left the Mega Diancie, or if he had left the base Diancie in while Mega Evolving it and just attacked into the boosting turn, he then would have outsped and been able to cleanly 2-hit KO. Obviously, he was scared of leaving it in that sense because it's a rock versus water. Pretty bad matchup on just general typing, but sometimes you just got to play the speed tiers. Just a psychic attack into a poison rush. Another psychic into fighting. We'll go to game 2. Yeah, Mamox is definitely going to have to adjust his play in the second match. Almost a clean sweep by Zeusimon there. We'll see what he does to kind of change it up. realistically, if it were the same leads, just like I described before, that situation's not the worst for him. The other part of that is that Zeusimon also has the freedom to just not lead with that. He can save it in his back pocket and use it when he needs to and go for the traditional lead with Skarmory, while Mamox has to respect the possibility of the Manaphy lead. Yeah, Crobat and a Manaphy. So he's still able to attack it with that speed. And there's the taunt on the tail globe. Very good play there. And neither Pokemon taking those attacks exceptionally well or hard. The big difference being the recoil on that Brave Bird, getting that Crobat at the lower percent. And yeah, Zeusimon just doesn't like the matchup, but Mamox taking good advantage of it to get some priority going. There's the poison and desynchronize into immune due to the poison typing. But the Mew does get a Calm Mind off. We did see before that this is a Calm Mind setting Mew. Not my personal favorite build. Love using all of its utility that it has, but it really depends on the surrounding team. And as you can see on Mamox's team, he's got good coverage on Defoggers. He's got the Taunter and the Crobat. Oh, and an Ice Beam into Monkey Dragon. He's reading the tea leaves, calls the swap. There's the Shadow Ball, takes it well with the special defense buff, but loses the special defense buff from the proc. Ice Beam finishing it off with the Lottie. And that poison's really starting to tick hard here. Zeusimon in the think tank on what to bring out against this Mew. Me personally, I'd be fine with sending the Manaphy in and just trusting that my speed investment with it as a sweeper is going to be better than the Mew's. We saw the Manaphy outspeed it twice. Cobalion coming in to handle the situation instead. A lot of speed on Zeusimon's team. He also could have gone into the Aerodactyl. Just going to be able to outspeed a ton of stuff with that. But the big question is here is it? Yeah, he swaps it. He's saving his Mew, protecting it. Taunt off on the Scizor. It's going to stop Scizor from using his supportive abilities, but he does still have U-turn to just kind of keep that momentum going. The Bullet Punch won't be very good into the steel on steel violence. Oh, and a hard swap from the Scizor, wanting to protect its health, being a slow U-turner, bringing the Rotom in against Kingu, the Aerodactyl. The Hydro Pump, and yep, there it goes. Oh, and he does the burn with the Will-O-Wisp. That also would have been very good against the Aerodactyl, a known physical attacker, but also much better on the switch in than a Hydro Pump would potentially do. Very different matchup than our game one. Brings out the Mew, either expecting it to be able to take that hit or just flat out sacking it for the pivot. Both players at 5 mon left. And Mamox is going to try and set up the Diancie. A little scary into a known poison, but he'll at least be able to get the Protect and the Mega off if he decides to go that route. Then he can pivot around if needed, or just go for the outspeed for the kills. Oh, and going for the Stealth Rock. Good clean Stealth Rock landed onto the switch in, but this should threaten the Diancie out, barring any moves that it has in its coverage that can hit the Cobalion super effectively. But that steal is very scary. And as we are currently dealing with an ice storm here, I did have a couple little flickers of power right there. We'll see if we can keep it together throughout the rest of this game. One of or both players stalling out here. Going with the Protect for the Scout, but it gives away the free Sword Stance. That Sword Stance is super safe because it's either going to be a switch or a Protect like that. Attacking into the Cobalion isn't necessarily good depending on your And there's the switch into the Rotom Wash. The Iron Head, 12%. Rotom is eating that all day. There's the Close Combat. Does not take that nearly as well. But the burn goes on to break that attack. Massive hit though with 73%. So Rotom to survive even after the burn. And no, just going for the clean swaps. Just let that defense and special defense keep dropping. Let that burn do its work. If Zeusimon starts switching, Mamox has his rocks out. I wouldn't call it a commanding position, but I definitely think he has the tempo at the moment. Taking the opportunity to get a roost off on the Crobat. But Zeusimon bringing in the Skarmory, possibly planning on setting up some of his own hazards. But there's the taunt on the Crobat. He does know it's there, and there's an Iron Head, so he did predict the taunt. A whopping 1% into the Infernape. Another Iron Head coming in and resisted. There's the Dragalge. Now we see what type of Infernape it is. He goes for the Nasty Plot and sets up. Both of these trainers apparently just planning on setting up on each other. The Calm Mind Mew, the Nasty Plot Infernape, and a missed Fire Blast. There goes the Scald, super effective. Big hit, but Infernape holds on. Oh, and Mamox just pivoting out. Like, very interesting situation there, because now the Infernape is at 5% health and no longer has that special attack buff. Rotom low as well too now. Mini low mon there. Zeusimon's got some burns sprinkled throughout his team. So his offensive pressure isn't fully there, but oh, and there's a pain split just faster than it, I guess. And eating that scald, no problem. Now they'll both take their burn damage. Interesting little stall out here with the pain splits there. Could also just go for the offensive play and try and get the kill with the Rotom. Could do a Volt switch to go ahead and protect it as well. Or what remains of it. There's the Volt switch, only 10%. The Scizor should be able to threaten, but there's a big burn proc off the Scald. Gonna cut that Scizor's attack. Should still have plenty to be able to finish this thing off with a bullet punch, and he does. But now both teams just kind of sprinkled with burn throughout. Zeusimon goes down on the Pokemon count with that one, but I believe he might still be up on the combined health total with Mamox's Mon being low at this point. And he's going to use this time to try and set up on the Manaphy and see if he can just pull off his sweeping trick again. Be interesting to see what Mamox does. He's got the heal bell, removing those burns and just setting his dudes back up. There's a good knockoff by the Scizor to remove those leftovers. But you see with that burn, just the damage is not there. And Mamox willing to go ahead and use the spawn to try and get his momentum back. The 5% health Infernape, it should be faster than the Manaphy. We'll see if it can actually land an attack this time. And you can just feel the speed of this game's just down to a crawl. Mamox has to win in order to make it into game 3. Zeusimon not wanting to give him the opportunity to do that. Someone, possibly both, are deep in the cook tank. There's the close combat for the kill, the Infernape dying from the Life Orb recoil. It is 3-3. Both players still have their megas. A lot of offensive power there. Yeah, Crobat into the Cobalion. An interesting matchup where their types kind of offset each other. The Poison Flying versus the Steel Fighter. And a good taunt on the Sword stance. Yeah, you see them just trading those hits, trading the leftover ticks. Oh, and the Roost from the Crobat could be the difference maker in this matchup, but the taunt has ended, so now he has to re-taunt, which will give just more Iron Heads going into that Crobat, which is going to force it back into the Roost, and the whole time, Cobalion is just eating up those leftovers. Just, a little snack here, a little snack there. Nibbles and bits, as they say. And not willing to keep this matchup going, brings in the Aerodactyl on the Roost turn. Let's see, Aerodactyl. Oh, it's going to be a speed tie before the Mega Evolution. Post Mega Evolution, the Aerodactyl should be faster. But if both are fully speed invested, they are once again tied. But Mammox not worried about that, just going straight for the swap, and a big miss on the Stone Edge there. The Megas are staring each other down. Very difficult situation with this Diancie, with Zeusimon having 2 steel types left, and there's an Iron Head recovering all 3 steel types essentially. And here's that Rotom at just the low health, 12% and burned. I believe Aerodactyl's just going to be able to clean this one up from this point. And oddly, Zeusimon going for the swap there, letting the Rotom kind of get back in the game with a big pain split. I really feel like he could have just mashed a couple more attacks and just finished it off from there. Yeah, and just Skarmory for those antics. Out comes the Crobat. Aerodactyl coming in. The Stealth Rock damage, big on the Aerodactyl, and a Stone Edge miss. Massive misses, but you see it just able to tank those Brave Birds. The Crobat not having a great offensive move to go into it. And that's just the risk of running those high power moves like that. I am well aware of that, as I'm constantly running things like Hurricane. And both players are just complaining to each other about their poor RNG as opposed to just finishing up the match one way or the other. There, the Stone that turn, just crushing that Crobat. That can't run the move. The Rotom taking that chip down to 29% with the burn. Can he do it? It's gonna be hard. It's Rotom versus the world. And no, and that's gonna clean it up. Good game.